Who made this? For real, who made this? I seriously doubt it was the New York Times. The Female Hotness Index. It's ranked all of Earth from absolute perfection all the way down to, well, revolting. Bro. Quebec, Canada gets absolute perfection. So does Scandinavia, Iceland, the south of France, a lot of the Switzerland, Austria, northern Italy region. That's it in terms of the absolute perfection category. But this is how you know this whole chart is sus as hell. Beautiful. For some reason, the entire state of Utah is labeled as beautiful. I'm not believing that for a second. My grandma came from Utah, and she was about a 5. Bruh. No, but I've never seen a single map cause such a massive war online. Because clearly the person that made this is insanely biased. Then again, the data sources is anecdotal evidence. Along with the Office of Data and Statistics of the Russian Federation and ESPN. For the nation of Australia, you're either revolting or absolutely beautiful. There's no in between. I'll be honest, I despise the person that did this. To give the majority of Brazil the red or orange category, orange being horrible, bro, automatically you've lost all credibility. I know exactly why this region of Argentina, Uruguay, and very southern Brazil are rated blue. I mean, I'll be honest, the map was pretty obvious what type of bias we were dealing with, but this is just a step too far for Brazil. Colombia being so low is a crime. Now, also, just to single out the Peruvians like that, like, bro, I'm hoping the only reason the Deep South got this strip of red was to do a Saddam Hussein meme here. It's funny, the only reason why I even saw this map in the first place is that someone tweeted out, Mormon hands fabricated this data, zooming in on Utah, and it got 78,000 likes. People were in agreement. This is so sus. Mormon randomly also really despises Kurds for whatever reason. In fact, he despises a lot of random ethnic groups. For some reason, the Bangladeshis and Eastern India. If bro's gonna give Japan and South Korea such high rating, you could probably say that North Korea is gonna get a high rating too. Why leave them off the list? Koreans are Korean, whether they're coming from the north or the south. I mean, sounds like a little bit of bias from this clear Mormon. No, I don't know if they're Mormon, but I mean, Utah. According to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, Utah has the highest rate of plastic surgery per capita in the United States. Is that real? My Google AI is saying Florida. That definitely checks out. That makes sense to me. However, apparently Salt Lake City does have the most plastic surgeons per capita. Honestly, some of the fun of finding just really horrible maps like this is to try to figure out more data about the guy who made it. A lot of information that's saying that this person might possibly be French. You gotta look for the strange outliers, like just the coast of Colombia and Venezuela for some reason. That's the only part of Latin America he likes. Well, then Cuba. Really? All of Alaska? Could he be a furry? Is he including some polar bears in this list? No, but I disagree with this chart so much. I need to make my own chart, but I know that I will probably get canceled if I do that. Not that I'd have crazy opinions, but just because I guess you're not supposed to do this. I don't know, man. We used to be a proper country. I'll do a male hotness index just based off of my own experiences in terms of hot dudes. Bruh. Yeah, we're actually gonna need to see that one, actually. Where's the list? Bro, doesn't the Philippines win Miss Universe like every year? Sometimes I wonder if there's a correlation between homelessness and hotness. In this case, hotness can be climate or just anyone that's attractive. Why are the states that oftentimes considered to be the most attractive also have the most homeless people? The only thing I can think of is that it tends to be the case where the weather is pretty good that also has homeless people and hot people. Like California, there's beaches here, everyone wears just very little clothing, I guess. And that's probably because the weather is so good. Well, it ranks between hot and just feels really nice. The issue is that as also going to draw in a lot of homelessness. And yes, my home state of California has the most homeless. It's kind of mind-breaking, the fact that California has 200,000 people living on the streets. I mean, I know we're the state with the most population, so you would assume you'd see a lot of homelessness, but that's crazy. Especially considering Texas is number 2, but Texas only has about 30,000 people that are homeless. Texas got way worse weather, though, I will say. Wouldn't it be fun to be homeless in Texas? The only state that gets even close to California is New York. There are about 20,000 homeless people behind. I don't really understand, how does this work in New York? I guess homeless people got to live in the tunnels. Because let me tell you, I totally understand how homeless people work in California. Damn, I mean, I'm tempted. I kind of want to be homeless. Okay, I don't want to be homeless. Okay, let me be real. I don't want to be homeless per se. However, technically, you'd be considered homeless if you live in an RV, right? That's huge in LA. I honestly consider just buying an RV and living in an RV inside of LA. Like, so many people do this. Actually, it's gotten so bad in the city of San Francisco, they they literally banned RV parking, where you can only park for 2 hours. You then gotta leave, or else you're gonna get ticketed. You need to get also a permit. There goes my idea to live in an RV in California. It's a pretty OP strat, I'm just saying. You know what's funny? Everyone loves to poop on Mississippi. Mississippi has only got 1,000 homeless people, though. I'm not sure if that's just my inner deep south, you know, calling out for the mirrored Alabama, Mississippi state, but, you know, kind of get tired of people like shitting on Mississippi. You know, they're trying their best. More than likely, people are living in a state that has more people that are homeless than Mississippi does. Only North Dakota and Wyoming is beating them out here. Now, these are states, obviously, with much less population in general. I think a lot of this map basically comes down to just kind of population density. However, like we said, Texas and Florida have pretty low numbers, pretty low rates comparatively. Florida's the third most populated state, but only 30,000 homeless. I'm assuming that's because the hurricanes will get rid of you real fast. Here's the overall breakdown of each and every single state. There's some interesting discrepancies, like I said, with some of these. California and New York alone make up 45% of the nation's homelessness. They're counting both people living in shelters and those unsheltered or on the streets in encampments. The issue is that I think a lot of these people obviously have addiction. It's not just about being homeless. There's mental health issues and or addiction, which makes it so much harder to fix this problem. I just want to know how many of these people are choosing to just live in their car, though. Are these... I'm thinking this is accounting for that. I've seen a TikTok couple where they like are choosing to live in their car for like a month or something like that to save on rent. Believe it or not, outer space is a lot closer than most people realize. This map is showing, are you closer to outer space or the ocean? If you're in any of the red regions, which I'm sure a lot of the world's population is pretty close to an ocean, just in general, humans like to live next to the ocean, well then yeah, you are closer to that big body of water. But anywhere else, you're actually closer to outer space. So most of France is closer to outer space, most of Spain is closer to outer space, all of Switzerland and Austria and Czechia and Slovakia, you're way closer to space. It's an interesting map because it's still probably infinitely easier to get to the ocean than to get to outer space. I mean, do any human beings just have access to go to outer space that easily? I don't think so. Don't you got to be an astronaut or something? I thought we were going to start to maybe do passenger outer space trips. Like, wasn't Elon talking about that? The Great Lakes, for whatever reason, are here, but they're not an ocean. We're talking to you, Michiganders. You know, we're going to need to update this map because the people that live on mountains are infinitely closer to outer space than just everyone else, right? Belgium, for instance, is considered the lowlands. They're definitely further away from outer space than anyone living in the Alps of Switzerland. It's very interesting, though. So basically, outer space is only like, what, 50 miles up? It's 100 kilometers or 62 miles above sea level. And a lot of those territories that we were looking at is way above sea level. Then there's the whole argument of where exactly does outer space begin? I mean, we have to get to the stratosphere and beyond that. This line is specifically known as being officially in outer space, though. I mean, generally speaking. You know, recently I started to regain a little bit of hope because I've been so depressed lately with the human race that we have not gone back to the moon or done really much of anything, sent man missions to any other place in our solar system. But you know what's going to happen? China's going to start the second space race up. I mean, it's inevitable. China's going to start to do some crazy things, and that's going to freak out America and start to light a fire under our ass, just like the Soviets did during the Cold War. It's so perfect. I might be dead for that, though. If the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, was lying down on its side, it would be a 5 to 10 minute walk. Mount Everest would be a 30-minute bike ride or 5-minute drive. Holy Chilean Empire. I thought I was the only one thinking about this. This literally looks like all the mods of like, what if the Chilean Empire was really, really long? It's sobering to think that all of us are less than 100 miles away from the freezing vacuum of space and also less than 40 miles from burning hell and pressure of the Earth's mantle. Biggest thing this post taught me, though, is that for some reason Michigan thinks that they live next to an ocean. Someone really needs to check on this U.S. state. We're also focused on places like Italy or South Korea or even the USA not having enough babies, but people don't realize how bad the situation is also in China. In fact, there's this one geopolitical analyst I like to listen to named Peter Zion. He's been claiming for a while now that in the next like 10 years, China is going to be much less powerful because they're experiencing demographic collapse. I'll be honest, for me, I've always thought like I think China will figure it out. I think China's power is going to be here to stay, even if they, I don't know, dip below 1 billion people. That's still still way more than the US has. But yeah, the issue is that China is having a mass retirement generation. Like a bunch of their people, maybe over 50%, 60% are all going to be retirees. Currently, about 21% of China's population is over the age of 60, but again, this data is coming from the Chinese government, so, you know, be careful with that information. Right now, America's only at 17% of our population being over 65. These numbers are going to grow literally every year as people continue to decline to have babies, though. For reference, the US sits around this light green category. This is only exclusive to 2 regions of China, and keep in mind, this is still below replacement. You need 2 to be at replacement level. And the vast majority of China, especially the regions with the most population, they're under 1, which, yeah, sound the alarms. We might be dealing with an apocalyptic event. Look at Manchuria. This region of Manchuria being at 0.52. That's hard to even fathom. The US is at 1.6 children per woman, but a lot of that is helped by immigration. Obviously, that's something that China doesn't really do a whole lot of because they already have over 1 billion people. There's definitely different ways for China to try to fix this. The issue is that they're going to have so many people that are going to become retired. They would have to import so many immigrants to keep up with everyone that's all old. You're talking like hundreds of millions of Indians possibly, or Pakistanis, or any country that has even 100 million to even import. That's why India came up first. Yeah, in this region at 0.53. Sadly, we probably won't even know the official data anytime soon because I don't know if the Chinese government is ever really going to tell us the real data on how bad it really is. Apparently, that northeastern region of China known as Manchuria is the equivalent of the Rust Belt up there. 0.52 is crazy. It'll empty in the next 50 years unless and until it gets migration. I honestly believe that at some point, China will start forcing people to have children. I mean, that's what I was thinking. That or robotics/AI will save them. I just really think that China's going to figure it out. Even if it's like the most draconian thing you can ever imagine, they will figure it out. I just can't imagine the horrors that they will force people to go through. And maybe the US will follow that same strategy. I don't know. So not every country, believe it or not, gets their masters in the same thing. For instance, here in the US, about 26% of majors are business and law. I feel like business and law, those are 2 very different things, though. Like, damn. Like, the dumbest dude you'll know, I would have gone into business. I would have never gone into law, though. Another 26% of majors in the US go into health. That makes a lot of sense. 14% go into health, then information technology for 8%, and then 8% social studies. As you can see, though, there's different priorities for all these different countries, and I'm just surprised that we even have this data. Most people in different countries do love majoring in business and law, and the biggest place is Luxembourg. Now, if you know anything about Luxembourg, it's a very tiny but very rich place in Europe, so I'm not surprised to see they're number 1. Colombia, on the other hand, a bit more surprised. 53% of their country going into business and law. Dang, Luxembourg hates education. Only 7%. You would think we would see way more in the category of sciences and maths, but really, I only see a couple of countries on this list. Costa Rica at 3% with sciences and math. France at 9%. Iceland with 7%. And the bottom 4 is when you really see a massive divide begin to occur. A third of Japanese students are majoring in engineering. That sounds pretty smart, although I am thinking, like, what is AI gonna make obsolete soon? 23% of Swedes go into engineering. Then their second biggest major is health. Look at how much Japan has into arts and humanities. 8%. I didn't expect that from Japan. 8%. The US doesn't even have arts and humanities on the list. Oh, keep in mind this bar over here is the final others, so that could be obviously a combination of things. Brazil loves health, but Brazil is like equally going into multiple categories. Actually, a lot of them are just in other. And then Spain loves education. About 25%, 27% of people in this country going into education. Well, I guess they're majoring in education. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going in that field yet. They got to get a job first. I'm just trying to think why you would get a master's in arts and humanities, though. Not to judge people, but if I'm getting my master's, I'm going to say it's definitely going to be, I don't know. Yeah, law makes sense. I guess health makes sense. You can become a doctor. Engineering is interesting, though. It'd be interesting to see law and business separated from one another. I wonder how this data is being affected by, obviously, here in the US, we got to pay for school. We got to pay heavily for that. I mean, master's degrees is a little bit of a different thing, and it's going to be even more expensive. But I wonder how much our data would change if it was a little bit easier to get your master's and not be in debt for the rest of your life. You know how when you're in a group project and like one kid does all the work? That's kind of what's happening here in the US. Basically, all these cities are doing at least half of the work in terms of generating half of the money. It's like a giant group project though, where there's like 100 kids and maybe like 10 or less are doing half of the work. Why were we never in like a group project with over 100 kids? That would have been so fun. Start your own company. Create the next Apple. First thing that comes to mind when I see this though is, yeah, all right, these cities, because they're basically all cities, they're making half of the economic activity, which makes sense. Also, this is like half of the population though too. Nobody lives in the blue. It's just like farmland and rural. People like to live in cities. This is where people live. People generate economic activity. It's kind of simple. That's why young people like to move into the big cities, right? You can make all the money. Surprised that the only place included on this list is Miami down this way in Florida. Nothing else, no other big city. This is where a ton of economic activity is happening in this huge corridor from DC to New York. Chicago's big. Detroit is included. We got Seattle. 3 different orange dots here in California from the Bay Area to LA to San Diego. Only Dallas and Houston for Texas. Interesting choices they decided to make. This is just like the top 15 economically powerful cities basically put together. Why is this crazy? People densely populated cities have a higher GDP than fields of corn. People live in cities. Something else to note, which is very important, 2 economies, they are 2 different economies that are wildly different. The economies outside the cities depend more on getting or producing tangible products, while the economies inside of cities depend more on the logistics and management of these said products. You kind of need both. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Not to mention the blue area is probably making all the food. Finally, I live in a blue state. And here's a big thank you to this month's patrons. Can white people smell the rain? It's pronounced Tour de Sillas, Drew. DruuuWu Labubu. Conquered Bread. White Grape of the Pirates. Never change, Drew. Unless you want to. LuxembourgLover. Fredrik Tibblin. Pavlik. KingBearHaze. NordTyrol. LoreTrack. What's your name here? Nolan. Check the Patreon link down below in the description.